105-102 winners last night over the Indiana Pacers. Again, they're back in the finals for the second time in 3 years. And this whole series outside of Game 2 followed a familiar script. They easily could be down 3-1 today. They're not. They're back in the finals. At worst, it's a 2-2 series or something like that. So there's different ways to read how this Eastern Conference final went down. Either the Celtics are fortunate to be where they are, or they were clutch. Something we've been begging for them to show all year long. Did they show it to your satisfaction? You can vote at Jones and Mego. It's up now on Twitter. You can dial us up, 617-779-7937. What'd you think, Mego? Celtics are lucky or they're clutch?
Hell yeah, they're clutch. That's where I'm at now. 4-game sweep, just exactly what they had to do in this series to prove anything to me or to us or anybody who's been skeptical at any point, not just this year, but over the last several years, basically since it's been the Jays at the core of this team. It starts with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum having the clutch shots in Game 1 and finishes with that rebound from Jrue Holiday to seal it last night. When we talk about these dumb cliches, like can they flip the switch? Can they control their destiny? This is the kind of series we're talking about. It's the opposite of them being a front-running team. And I understand that people might get frustrated by saying, well, the Celtics have so much more talent on the floor. So, there's an injury on the other side with Tyrese Halliburton. Why can't they just go in and blow the other team out of the water every game? Well, I'm more encouraged that they could go into these fourth quarters, especially in games 1 and 3, and take control when it mattered. At the very end, something that we haven't seen them do consistently quite a lot over the last several years. So, and just looking ahead, when I hear people talk about the road to the finals is so easy, it's got to be one of the easiest roads to the finals. Well, to me, this road has been, the starting gate was years ago. Like with this particular group. And so I would look at it overall and say this series maybe looks easier to people or looks more like they got lucky because of injury after injury and, being the top seed. But I look at it and I go, I think that they finally showed a lot of who I've wanted them to be for years.
Arcan, lucky or clutch?
I want to preface this by saying that I do think that they got very lucky. I think they got very lucky throughout the course of these playoffs. 9 of the games that they played were without the opponent's best players. So 9 of 14 games, that's like 68%. That's pretty lucky. That's a pretty charmed path to the finals. But I was looking at Jaylen Brown, and he's basically who I'm putting all this analysis on because I think he's the perfect test subject for what this team is and what's different about them, and are they clutch now or did they just get lucky? Jason Tatum, this playoff, so far during the playoffs, has an assist-to-turnover ratio of 1-to-1, and that was my biggest critique last year is, man, he keeps turning the ball over. He can't make free throws. He still can't, by the way. But those were like...
He missed his first 3 last night.
The 2 main things that I was like, if this team wants to really do something in the playoffs, he's got to really fix that and do something about that. And I was looking at it and thinking, well, why is it different this year? Why was he different this year? And the reason is because he was clutch. He was clutch down the stretch. He didn't turn the ball over in those big moments. He didn't get the ball and lose it and dribble off his foot and completely blow the game and give the team another chance. He was making threes. He was driving to the basket, making shots. He was making great assists like last night to Derek White. It was night and day, really. And you look at the numbers, and they're basically the same. The same problems are still kind of there, but they weren't happening in clutch moments, and I think that was the biggest difference. You can say the same thing about Jason Tatum to an extent, and now that you have Jrue Holiday here and Derek White filling in that role that Marcus Smart was supposed to be doing here in the clutch moments down the stretch, you're talking about guys who can make those shots. You're talking about guys that other teams fear and won't just leave wide open like that, allowing guys like Tatum and Brown to get those shots off. And in Brown's case, I mean, he was clutch. Absolutely, he was. The whole team was. Derek White, that was a big 3. They were clutch. They got lucky. They got lucky on who was injured and everything, but when it came down to it, they were clutch.
Okay, so there were massive clutch plays throughout the series. Jalen's 3 in Game 1. Derek White knocking down the 3 last night. Jaylen with the block prior to that and the pass. Those are all clutch plays. Jrue Holiday, massive plays in Game 3. That my timeline would still be exploding if Marcus Smart made that play in Game 3. And so I'm not saying there were no clutch plays, but they're lucky. This team is lucky. They got the 6-seeded Pacers without their best player. They got the Cavs without Donovan Mitchell. And they got the Heat without Jimmy Butler. Like, that's just impossible to overlook. That's impossible to overlook. So I'm not saying they can't win a championship. I'm not saying they won't come through in the clutch against Dallas. but I'm not ready to go there yet. I need to see them against the team at full strength. Assuming they're ever going to face one, I need to see that happen. They came through with some big, big moments. But it was against the 6-seeded Pacers and backups last night.
So you don't count games 1 and 2 of this series
No,
as
I do.
a team
Game
that
one,
was full strength?
Game 1, I came in and said, wow, they were super clutch in that game. I came in and said that. Game 2 wasn't clutch at all. They blew them out. So the last 2 were without Tyrese Halliburton. And I just look at that and I can't ignore all the players that haven't played against the Celtics on the way to the NBA Finals. I can't overlook that. Why are they here? They're lucky that's the path that they've had. Maybe they would have blown everybody out anyway. Or maybe not. I have no idea. I don't know because they haven't had to face them. I'm not taking it away. I'm not saying they don't deserve to be here. I've picked them from day one to be here. I expect them to win a championship. I expected them to be here. I also expected them to go through a team once or twice at full strength. It still hasn't happened. Forced to pick one or the other. And again, there's good merits to both sides. They made a bunch of clutch plays. But they're lucky they haven't faced those teams. These are all the best players on the other team. They're not there all postseason long. So assuming they get full-strength Dallas, meaning Luka and Kyrie, I don't care about Derek Lively or anybody else, PJ Washington, Kleber, who just came back. I don't care about those guys. Assuming they get Luka and Kyrie, we won't have to hear about this anymore. We won't talk about it anymore. But so far, no Butler for a full series, no Mitchell for half a series, no Halliburton for half a series. That's lucky. I'm sorry, it is.
I think I would say it was lucky if the game had extended to 5 or 6 or even 7. You know, like I think I would say, wow, okay, lucky you survived and you advanced. But they, to me, look like they controlled their destiny to the point that it's like you could accuse them of messing around a little bit in the fourth quarters and giving up these leads, especially game 3 when they're down by 18. And it's like, what are you guys doing? You know, like to quote a former coach, you guys are playing like a-holes.
Yeah.
And then they come, but ultimately they did the thing that I personally have been critical of them for years, where they came back and they controlled it.
Yeah, against backups.
And that's something, okay.
Against Andrew Nembhard.
Yeah, but that's something that Jones, even this season, we've looked at them and definitely last season during the regular season and said, like, they can't even overcome these teams that are missing their best players. They were the guys in the past who would be up 20-plus points and pee away a lead. And so I just feel they won all 4 games. Okay, they did it. They did.
Some of us expected them to sweep, by the way. This is a lot closer than I thought.
You were early on this,
yeah.
Okay? So, yeah, I give you credit for that. I thought it was going to go 5 or 6 games for sure. I also didn't think Tyrese Halliburton was going to get injured. But it's all to say, like, I can't say it's luck when you control it as well as they controlled it ultimately.
If they're down 18 and Halliburton is out there,
yeah, but then
are they losing?
Came back.
Okay, they did, but Halliburton wasn't playing. Like, that's a significant thing. So I'm not taking the wins away. They deserve to be in the finals. Just, if I have to give them credit for being clutch now on top, they deserve to be there. Now I also got to call them clutch when they're playing backups. Like, no, I'm not ready to go there. Prove it against Dallas or Minnesota if Minnesota has some historic comeback. But prove it in the finals, and I'll shut up about it. The banner will count either way. I'm not saying you don't get to go on the duck boats. Just, I'm not going to go the extra mile and call you clutch when the other team hasn't had their best player all postseason long.
What if they show up to the parade and, like, 3 of the duck boats are down and now the duck boats can't get to the parade?
That's what they would deserve. 617-779-7937. You can jump in on this. Are the Celtics clutch or are they lucky? You can vote at Jones and Mego. It's our